He drank with his friend every night, not knowing the poison was already in the cup. A story of friendship, greed, and betrayal, a reminder that when envy enters the heart, even love can turn deadly. Life was simple in the quiet town of Izumu. The streets were dusty, and the sound of motorbikes filled the air every morning. Among all the people in the town, two men stood out, Chike and Emeka. They were the kind of friends everyone admired. They grew up together, farmed together, and even helped each other build their houses. Their friendship was so close that people often said, if you see Chike, Emeka cannot be far. They were more like brothers than friends. But no one knew that one of them was already nursing a dark heart. Chike was a man blessed by fate. He was married to a beautiful woman named Ngozi, who was known for her kind heart and sweet smile. Together, they had 3 strong boys. He owned a small poultry farm, and his birds sold well in the market. Emeka, on the other hand, was a man whom life had not treated kindly. 2 years ago, his wife had died after a strange illness, leaving him lonely and bitter. Chike often helped him, bringing food, inviting him over to eat, or sharing laughter to lighten his heart. Everyone believed Emeka was lucky to have such a friend. Then, one hot afternoon, news spread across Umuis like wildfire. A network company had come to buy land to build a communication mast. They offered huge money, enough to change anyone's life forever. When the surveyors came, the land they picked happened to belong to Chike. The deal was fixed for the next week, and Chike would receive his payment once the papers were signed. The town rejoiced with him. Even Emeka congratulated him, saying, "My brother, God has finally remembered you." But when Emeka went home that night, he sat in darkness, clenching his fist. Envy entered his heart like a thief. He began to think of all the things he could have had if he were in Chike's shoes: a new house, new clothes, even Ngozi's affection. "How can Chike have everything while I have nothing?" he muttered bitterly. From that night, peace left his heart. Every laughter from Chike felt like an insult. Every kind word felt like mockery. The devil saw the bitterness in him and whispered a plan, a quiet one, deadly and slow. A few days later, Chike and Emeka sat together at Mama Kolechi's bar, their usual evening spot. The smell of fried fish and palm wine filled the air. Emeka poured the first cup and handed it to his friend. "To success," he said with a fake smile. Chike laughed and drank it all in one gulp. He didn't know that his best friend was already dreaming of his death. As they laughed under the dim light, the poison of envy was already preparing its place in their lives. The next few days passed quietly. Chike continued his normal walk, but something began to change. He started feeling tired for no reason. His chest felt heavy, and his appetite disappeared. Ngozi thought it was malaria, so she bought medicine from the chemist, but it didn't help. Instead, Chike grew weaker every day. At night, he would wake up sweating, clutching his chest. "Ngozi," he whispered one night, "I don't understand this sickness." She touched his forehead gently. "Don't worry, my husband. You'll be fine." Emeka, pretending to care, visited almost every day. He brought palm wine and sat by Chike's bed, talking and smiling. "You'll be fine, my brother," he said. "Maybe you just need to rest your mind." Each time, he made sure to pour the wine himself. "Drink small," he said. "It will help you sleep." Chike trusted him. Ngozi trusted him too. Nobody suspected that the drink itself was the silent killer. Emeka would watch him take a few sips, then smile to himself. The plan was working slowly, just as the herbalist had promised. As Chike's condition got worse, people in the neighborhood began to talk. Some said he had been cursed because of the land deal. Others said maybe it was a spiritual attack from jealous villagers. Ngozi was confused. Her husband was dying slowly, and no medicine was helping. She began to pray every night, begging God to heal him. Meanwhile, Emeka continued to pretend. "You see, my brother, he said one afternoon, if you cannot go to the city for the land deal, maybe I can help you. I'll go in your place and bring back the money. Chike smiled weakly. Thank you, Emeka. You're the only one I can trust. That night, Emeka decided it was time. He mixed the last portion of the poison into the drink. When he got to Chike's house, Ngozi was already preparing dinner. Ngozi, he said softly, I brought your husband something to make him strong. He smiled as she thanked him. Chike took the cup and drank without fear. Within minutes, his breathing slowed. Ngozi thought he was sleeping, so she covered him with a wrapper and went to check on the children. By the next morning, her scream filled the town. Chike was dead. The town gathered around their compound that morning. Some cried, some whispered. How can a healthy man die just like that? People asked. Emeka stood among the crowd, shaking his head and pretending to cry. But deep inside, he was smiling. The path to the money was now open, or so he thought. He never knew that evil, no matter how well hidden, always finds its way back home. The morning of Chike's burial was quiet. The sky looked dull, and the air felt heavy. The news of Chike's sudden death had shaken the whole town. People found it hard to believe. Just last week, he had been laughing at Mama Kolechi's bar. Now he was lying lifeless in a wooden coffin. Emeka stood close to the coffin, wearing a white shirt and a sad face. He looked like the most heartbroken friend in the world. People praised him for his loyalty. See true friendship, one man said. Emeka never left Chike's side till the end. Ngozi wept uncontrollably, rolling on the ground. Her children held her wrapper, crying too. Every tear from her eyes was a knife cutting through Emeka's fake heart, but greed made him strong. He told himself, just one more week, and the money will be mine. After the burial, Emeka took charge of everything. He told the company representatives that Chike had passed away and that he, as the closest friend, would help finalize the deal for the family. The company men were sympathetic. They said they would still go ahead with the land purchase and give the money to Chike's next of kin. Emeka smiled inside. He knew Ngozi was still confused and broken. He planned to convince her to let him handle everything. That evening, when everyone had gone home, Emeka sat outside his house drinking. The wind blew softly, carrying the sound of a baby crying from afar. He raised his cup and whispered to himself, to my success. But as he took a sip, a strange coldness ran down his spine. For a moment, he thought he saw Chike standing near the gate, watching him with sad eyes. He blinked, and the figure disappeared. He laughed nervously and shook his head. It's only drink, he said. But that night, he dreamt of Chike, pale and quiet, staring at him with a bleeding chest. By morning, Emeka woke up sweating. His head pounded, and his hands trembled. He tried to shake off the dream, but it stayed with him all day. People said he was grieving too much for his friend. Only he knew the truth, it was not grief, it was guilt crawling slowly into his soul. After the burial, Ngozi was left with her 3 children and many unanswered questions. Bills piled up, and hunger began to bite. Emeka used that chance to step in. Ngozi, he said gently one morning, let me help you. Chike wanted me to handle the land deal for your family. I will make sure you and your children get your share. Tears filled her eyes as she nodded. She trusted him completely. Thank you, Emeka, she said softly. You've been more than a brother. The company's agent called later that week to finalize the transaction. They said the money would be paid once the documents were signed. Emeka smiled as he collected the papers, promising to return them the next day. Don't worry, he told Ngozi, after this, you'll be rich. But as soon as he left, he went to a small hotel in town, already dreaming of a new life. He had decided to take the money and disappear. That night, as he lay on the bed counting his plans, he felt something strange. A cold wind blew through the room even though all the windows were closed. He sat up quickly. "Who's there?" he called, but no one answered. The lights flickered twice and went off completely. Suddenly, he heard a voice, soft and deep, calling his name. Suddenly, he heard a voice, soft and deep, calling his name. "Emeka," it was Chike's voice. He jumped up, sweating and shaking. "No. It's not real," he shouted. He grabbed the Bible on the table, but it fell from his trembling hands. The next morning, he tried to laugh it off, telling himself it was just his imagination. But things started to happen that he couldn't explain. His chickens began to die one by one. His food tasted bitter. Whenever he passed by Chike's compound, dogs barked at him like they saw a ghost. The townspeople started to notice that Emeka no longer looked healthy. He had dark circles under his eyes, and his hands shook when he spoke. "You need rest," Mama Kelechi told him one day. He nodded, forcing a smile. "I'm fine," he said. But deep inside, fear was already eating his heart. When the day for signing the land papers finally came, Emeka almost couldn't get out of bed. His stomach twisted, and his throat burned. He still forced himself to go because of the money. After today, everything will change, he told himself. But as he reached the office, he began to cough uncontrollably. People rushed to help him, but he waved them away. He signed the papers with shaking hands, collected the money, and left immediately. He didn't know that was the beginning of his fall, the same slow way he had poisoned his friend. Emeka thought his life had finally changed. He collected the big brown envelope filled with cash and smiled as he walked out of the company's office. "Chike, my brother, wherever you are, thank you," he said quietly, laughing to himself. He went to a bar, ordered beer, and started drinking. But as he sipped, his stomach twisted like a snake was moving inside. He coughed hard and held his chest. The barman rushed to help him, but Emeka waved his hand. "I'm fine," he said, forcing a weak smile. He didn't know the poison that killed Chike was slowly working inside him too. That night, he dreamt again. This time, Chike appeared clearly, his eyes red, his voice cold. "You drank, Emeka?" "The same cup you used for me," he said slowly. Emeka woke up with a loud scream, sweating from head to toe. He ran to the window, opened it, and started breathing fast. "No, it can't be true," he whispered. He poured away all his drinks, threw away every cup in his house, but still, he couldn't sleep again. Every shadow looked like Chike. Every wind whispered his name. Days turned to weeks, but peace refused to stay in Emeka's house. The money he got started bringing him bad luck. One of his sons fell sick and couldn't walk again. His farm got burnt mysteriously. People in town began to gossip, saying, maybe Emeka's hand is not clean. He pretended not to hear, but inside, fear had already built a house in his heart. At night, he sat by the window, talking to himself. "Chike, forgive me, please," he would whisper. But the only answer he got was the cold silence of his empty room. Ngozi was still struggling to feed her children. One evening, she sat outside crying when she heard footsteps. When she looked up, she saw Emeka standing at the gate, looking weak and tired. His eyes were red, and his clothes were dirty. "Ngozi," he said in a shaky voice, "I brought your share of the money." He handed her a small envelope with trembling hands. She looked at him with surprise. "But Emeka, what about you?" she asked. He laughed quietly. "I don't need it anymore. Chike has already taken his own." That night, the whole village heard Emeka screaming from his house. People ran to check, but when they reached, the door was locked from inside. They forced it open and found him lying on the floor, holding his chest. His eyes were open, but he wasn't breathing. On the table beside him was a half-empty bottle of gin, and inside the cup, there was a black powder at the bottom. "Jesus," one woman shouted. "The same poison." The next morning, the town was silent. Some said Chike's spirit came back for revenge. Others said Emeka died from guilt. But everyone learned a strong lesson: never let greed make you destroy a good friend. Ngozi buried Emeka beside the mango tree near Chike's grave. As the wind blew softly, she looked up at the sky and said, "God, may no man ever smile with a wicked heart." And from that day, the town believed one saying deeply: evil always returns to where it